Well, developing news out of Washington, D.C., President Obama has just invited Congressman Paul Ryan to lunch today at the White House. Just announced. It's all part of his attempt to charm a fence across the aisle. Last night, of course, the president hosted a rare dinner for a small group of Republican senators, including Pennsylvania Senator Pat Toomey, who joins us live from Capitol Hill right now. Senator, good morning to you.
Morning, guys.
What is the president up to? Why is he finally reaching across the aisle?
Well, I'm not sure what his motivation is. He's the only one who knows that for sure. But I would suggest that the approach of campaigning in America and really being quite confrontational hasn't been working so well. And so I'm hoping that this is a new approach on the part of the president to reach out, to have some dialogue, to see if there's common ground. Because we've got some really serious challenges and so much we could accomplish if we can find that common ground.
Senator, you could always tell if somebody's engaged and actually wants to hear your ideas, and you are one of the smartest guys in the Senate when it comes to dollars and cents. Was there a legitimate talk back and forth about, or was it just a bunch of small talk about the storm and about how bad the Yankees are going to be this year?
Not a lot on the Yankees, but actually it was very candid. It was cordial, but it was also substantive. It really was. Everybody had a chance to make the points they wanted to make. There was back and forth. There was substantive discussion about actual fiscal policy, priorities and alternatives and ideas. So, the idea wasn't that we were going to negotiate a deal last night. That was never part of the plan, and that isn't going to happen over one dinner. But I think it was a constructive exchange.
So were there specifics, Senator? There's been a lot made over the last couple of days about whether or not the president has actually offered specifics as far as spending cuts. And I guess I'm talking about the big elephant in the room, which would be the entitlements. Were there specific discussions about that?
There were some specifics, not nearly as specific as we're going to have to get if we're going to reach some kind of an agreement. But again, the purpose of this first dinner wasn't to lay out negotiating positions and start to do that haggling. It was more to sort of understand where we're coming from, what are the priorities on each side, how might we find a process that would allow us.
Senator, doesn't the president know that? And why after 5 years would he suddenly decide to have a dinner?
Yeah. You'd be surprised if you don't actually sit down and speak with the person on the other side. You may have a mistaken impression about what the priorities really are, where there's some flexibility and where there's not so much. I just think it's constructive to sit down face to face and have that conversation.
I think chit chat and chew is always a good way to get things started. But there are a lot of people who are skeptical, Senator, who say, look, the president had a bad week last week. The sequester cuts not nearly as scary as he promised they were going to be. His poll numbers are dropping. Next thing you know, he picks up the phone. He calls Lindsey Graham and says, hey, Lindsey, can you get a bunch of guys together for supper?
And gas.
Yeah, listen, I understand that, but those are valid observations. I think you're absolutely right. The president and the administration went way overboard on predicting the apocalypse of the sequester, and most Americans kind of get the idea that a bloated government can trim 1% without causing the end of Western civilization.
Right.
So I think it's very constructive that we'll actually achieve the savings of the sequester. I think better still, we're going to do it in a more sensible way than the way the underlying law did it, but we'll capture the savings. And we're going to have discretionary spending actually cut back to where it was before President Obama took office, I think. And so that's progress. But it's the small stuff. I mean, we need pro-growth tax reform. We need to get on a sustainable fiscal path. I think it's flawed policy in Washington that's the reason our economy is so weak right now. So there's a lot of opportunity.
Senator, let me tell you what some left-wing columnists are saying. This shows that Mitch McConnell is not representing you the right way, and there are some people that want to get out in front and let the president know, like yourself, that you are more willing to deal than your leadership presents. Is that true?
No, I don't think that's true. I don't think Mitch McConnell sees his role as being the negotiator on behalf of the Senate or Republicans in the Senate. He's our leader, and he plays an important role. But there has to be a consensus among a pretty large number of Republican senators on a big policy that we're going to embrace. No one individual senator makes that happen.
Senator, can I ask you this? How does it work at the end of the dinner when the president takes you out to dinner? Does he break out a credit card?
No, it didn't work out quite that way. At least I didn't see that part of it.
Right.
I suspect what happens is the folks who run the restaurant send the bill to somebody at the White House.
I bet.
Okay.
And before you go, sir, you were one of the senators who stood up with Rand Paul yesterday, asked him
That's
a
right.
question. How did that make you feel, and how important was what he was doing?
I was very proud. I was very proud of Senator Rand Paul. I mean, what he did at great personal inconvenience to himself was to force the Senate to focus on a very, very important question, a question that he can't get a straight answer to, and I think we all want one, which is simply this: does the administration believe that it has the authority to murder an American citizen with a drone on American soil, a non-combatant? We're not talking about somebody who's firing rockets. We're talking about someone who may be sipping a coffee at Starbucks or sleeping in an apartment.
Sure.
And the administration refuses to acknowledge that they don't have the authority to blow someone up on American soil under those kinds of circumstances. And that should be disturbing to all of us. I give Senator Paul a great deal of credit for focusing on this.
We'll get a system in place to find out if that is Al-Awlaki or the next bin Laden. And maybe that might be the only shot of it. Senator Toomey, thanks so much for joining us this morning. A lot of action in your
Thanks
life.
for having me.
Outside the
keep
office, too.
Take it easy today.
Yeah, that's right. I'll try.
All right.
Coming up on Fox and Friends.